Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? It's day 5 of RPG A Day 2019, and if you're going in linear fashion like I seem to be, then our prompt for today is space. And so for a second I thought of sci-fi games and how long it took me to really wrap my head around that. But we're not going to talk about that. This video isn't going to be about that, kids. Instead, I want to talk about something that's really, really important in role-playing games and something that took me a while to learn and I still need to practice. And that is allowing space to exist in the role-playing games. If you're a musician, one of the first things you start to learn is that the spaces between the notes are just as important as the notes themselves. They help create dynamic tension. And as a musician playing any given instrument, you don't need to fill up all the space. In fact, sometimes it's better for you to hang back, and there's this give and take and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not going to keep on making the musical metaphors, but you get the idea. And role playing games very often are no different. And certainly, as game masters, it is very natural for us to begin to try to fill up all of that space and to describe everything and to try to carry the weight of the fiction, so to speak, and to talk a lot and fill up a lot of space. And we end up kind of running roughshod over the players, very often by accident. And sometimes as players, we kind of will wait for somebody to fill up that space. And later on we develop some better skills with that. But that's what I'm talking about. Is very often once we get the hang of things, you can watch like somebody like Anthony who's really good at this, leave some space at the end of his narration. Just going to wait for a second, see if anybody's going to jump in, anybody's going to say something, because that's the kind of space we're leaving. Space for people to act, space for people to talk, space for people to use their imagination. Leave some space in the world itself so the world isn't so full that nobody is able to contribute anything, but don't leave so much space that people just meander around, or it doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to get at. And that can take some time. And likewise, just when we describe, when we narrate, leaving some space for the imagination of the other players at the table, whether we're the game master doing this describing or the player. Very often that space is just as important. What we don't say is just as important as what we do say. Because, a lot of the experience can live inside our heads. And if we give each other some room to imagine, to fill in those gaps, that fruitful void where we can kind of, color everything in, that can make the experience much more rich and much more vibrant. And it takes some practice, but leaving that space, knowing when sometimes nobody needs to fill it up at all. Somebody says something and it's just so poignant that that silence says everything. So I encourage you to embrace the space in your games, giving other people space or just to let the space happen. And so that's something, that I thought of that, instantly came to mind after the whole space thing. Take it easy, kids. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Yep, I want to stop.